Hi everybody, welcome to Color Your World. Now today we're going to kind of do a bunch of things all at once. We're going to show you a little bit of priming. I'm going to show you how a beginner primes. I actually had somebody here and we were working on a dragon. She wanted to paint a dragon. She's never painted a dragon before. So I'm going to do a whole bunch of things so we can get going on with the bigger segments that we want to do, where we want to just start to paint different games. But we have to cover priming and talk a little bit about paints, not too much. But without further ado, I think the most important thing is for us to get going. Now, let's talk about paint. There are so many different types of paints, but before you can understand about paint, the most important thing to know what it does. What's an acrylic paint? What's an oil paint? Now, oil painting we're never going to use. That's for canvas, and it's made with linseed oil. But what's acrylic paint? Well, there's only one thing to do. Thanks to the power of the mighty Board Game Geek, we're going to have Professor Nikki tell us all about acrylic paint.
Acrylic paint is relatively new to the art world, with its first appearance as acrylic resin in 1934. But it was not until 1953 that acrylic emulsion artists' paints that are water-based became commercially available. Since acrylic paint is water-based, it makes it a very flexible medium with many applications. So let's see how acrylic paint works. This is green acrylic paint. Green pigment, the paint's coloring, is suspended in an emulsion. It can be applied straight from the tube or the bottle to produce a rich, opaque texture of brushstrokes. Adding some water to the green pigment and emulsion paint increases the volume of the emulsion, but it is not adding more pigment. The pigment spreads out in the emulsion, and the green paint can now give the appearance of a smooth, solid, and even color. The more water added, the more the volume of the paint is increased and the pigment is spread apart. Acrylic paint can be watered down to a watercolor or ink appearance. Not only water can be added to acrylic paint, but there are a variety of mediums and textures that can be added as well for all sorts of effects. But I think you can save that for another time.
Well, there you go. See what the power of Board Game Geek does? Makes things even better when we get special guest stars. Thanks to Professor Nikki to explain acrylic paint and what it is. And that's the stuff that we're going to be using for all these wonderful board games. And as we go through this entire series, we're always going to be talking about acrylic paint. So let's handle priming. Priming is a major function. It's the first step you do. So let's go take a look on how to prime. So we're outside. We're gonna be priming today, okay? And the main thing with primer is making sure it's primer, not paint and primer, but just primer. And you want it ultra flat, because you're going to control if it's a flat figure or a gloss figure with your paint. Nice, flat, black usually works the best. You can use white, but that's for painting brighter colors. And we'll explain that later when we start talking about paint. Also, you can use a gray. Sometimes that cuts out having to paint some colors in. We'll also talk about that later. But today, we have a special guest. We have my good friend Tina, who flew all the way down from Chicago. Some of you might know her as Tina, the board gamer. Go check her site out. She is going to be priming her first figure ever. And what we're going to do is we're going to prime a really cool dragon. So without further ado, I need to get on the other side of the camera so we can do that. And we'll walk her through how to prime. Okay, so there's a couple of things that you want to see here, okay? Number one, we're trying to do this in the morning because we live in Florida and the humidity is crazy. Number one, you want to make sure that there's not a lot of wind, okay? Wind is bad. It'll blow all over the place. Number two, make sure your stupid pets are away from this so they don't catch a drift of it. You never want to prime inside because the fumes are just very bad. So Miss Tina here is going to come on over here. So come on over, Miss Tina. And you're going to want to be about 6 inches away. And you're going to want to spray him. Oh, come a little closer. That's it. There you go. And this is the first time she's ever primed anything. So you're going to hold.
Do I do it in one motion?
You're just trying to cover that thing in black paint. And you're going to do it from that angle.
Am I supposed to?
Squeeze. There you go. Yeah.
It took a little bit of...
That's all right.
strength.
Go ahead. It takes a little strain.
Like that?
Yeah, pretty much.
Or can I go
Yep,
consistently?
exactly. Just go consistently. So you want to make sure that you cover them, and you want to get from every single angle. And you can get a little closer. But the most important thing is you want to get a good coverage on it. All right, so come to the side.
It's like joints are really hard to
Yeah, but that's the whole thing. You got to make sure that you cover them real good. And as you can see, what she's doing is covering that in a black primer. And then she's going to come around the other side and spray some more.
the back of that head.
Yeah. And all you're trying to do, and keep shaking it, you can stop and shake. There you go, making sure that you get the paint. And you can see that you're getting a nice coat. And you're not taking the detail because you're not piling the paint on there, which is the most important thing. And then you're gonna come over to the side here, and you're gonna wanna spray that as well. Look at that. Oh, you're getting it now. And well, there you go. You're all done painting him. He's a black dragon.
Yay! That was easy.
Yeah. Tina paints, right?
There's
So,
like this very hard
yep, that's
spot.
okay. There's some hard spots you have to get here. So I'm going to show you something here while I have the camera. And what you want to do is you want to try to just stay even and consistent. If you see how I'm doing it, it's just nice and easy, and I'm keeping a good flow, moving along with the part. Okay? Now, you're gonna think he's done. But guess what? He's not. Because you're gonna want to tip him on his side.
For the back?
No. Because underneath is always hard to get. So you want to make sure that you get underneath there. And then you turn him again. See? Now you see the underneath? See where there's some green there? Okay.
Tummy.
His tummy. So we're just making sure, and that looks pretty good. So now we're just going to put him on his, oh, there we go. Got him right on his base. We hit all around and underneath. So he's ready to just dry. And then we're going to take him inside and we're going to start painting him. You saw Tina did a fantastic job priming that up. So now let's go down to the table and learn about the different types of acrylic paints that you're going to be using on your models here from your board games. Now, what this is going to do is going to give you some ideas of the different types of paint. Now, listen, these are all kind of top of the line paints that we're looking at, but you can go to your local hobby store and use Folklore, which is a better paint. I don't suggest the Apple type, the 99-cent bottles. You get a lot of paint in them, but guess what? You just add a little bit of water and they lose their pigment very quickly. And it's the same thing with the Folklore. You're going to want to pay a little bit more money. Go to Miniature Market and check out. They have a bunch of different paint kits with the paints that I talk about, the Army Builder, the Citadel, and so forth and so on. And hopefully you can find yourself a little paint kit, affordable, so you can get going to really get started painting your miniatures. But let's go talk about some paints down at the table. Okay, now it's time to look at some paints. Now, I always suggest for beginners Citadels. Now, you're wondering why the most expensive paint on the planet? It's because of the top. It's because of the way this is, the way this pot is. You only take out what you need. Like Vallejo, which are fantastic. And if you feel that you can get the control, first of all, they're a lot cheaper. You can get them at Hobby Lobby. As you can see, I only got these for $2.99. And compared to what you're going to pay close to $5 a pot. And these are just very excellent paints. Let's not forget our Army Painter. The Army Painter paints are also great, along with Army Builder paints. And here we have Cav, which is basically Reaper. Now, there's so many different paints out there that you're going to find that it really comes down to choice. What do you think works better for you? And that's where you're going to want to start. Now, being a beginner, I always suggest that you try to keep it cheaper and go with the drop tops, or find, you can even go to a Miniature Market and you can find yourself a paint set. Maybe it's a dedicated paint set to tanks, or maybe a Warhammer beginner paint set. Something just to get you going a bit until you decide if painting is for you. And that's what the most important thing. But hey, you can't color your world without paint, and paint is one of the most important parts of this whole process, and picking the one that works for you is always most important. So let's go up top and keep moving along here as we keep on talking about paints, primers, and where we're going to go forward with this segment. All right, there you have it. Now, I'm going to shrink this box up a little bit, and you're going to see right here. After that girl, Tina, had primed everything. Tina, the board gamer, good friend of mine. She's never painted a single figure in her life. And we're going to be talking throughout this series, and as you see below, as we're painting a dragon. She's picked up a dragon for the first time, and she wanted to paint it. And it was such a wonderful experience, and she had so much fun. She learned how to put a wash on. She learned how to put base coats on. She learned how to dry brush. As you see right around here, she's dry brushing over her bases and over her washes and bringing that figure to life. And then finally, as you can see how it all just comes together with an absolutely beautiful figure that she's working on, and just enjoying herself, immersed into the experience. And you could see the joy on her face. And of course you can see the joy on my face, because the most important thing I can ever do is teach you guys how to paint. I'm not the best painter in the world. I'm not even good. But honestly, one of the joys I get is bringing more people into the hobby and just learning how to paint. And you could see that she's really good. Look how beautiful that turned out. And we're going to teach you how to base. And you can see the base with the gold and all the jewels on it, and how intent and how personal it becomes when you put that together and you actually put it out in the field, onto your board games, or on your battlefield, or whatever you use it for, on your mantle, or maybe even at work. It's being able to express yourself and color it your way, and it's what you see in your mind. For this dragon, this is what I saw and what we both came up with together. And as you could see, not a bad job at all, and just a rewarding and wonderful experience. So guys, I hope you really enjoyed this. And now it's time to really get going with this series. We started off slow, talking about brushes, going to the store, talking about primers and paints. But now you're starting to see how we're going to incorporate and start teaching all the different techniques. And we're going to do that through a various supply of board games. Not only are we going to teach you how to paint those board games, but we're going to teach you the techniques along the way. And that's what Color Your World is all about. That's where we're going to hammer home, and that's where we're really going to set ourselves apart. It's teaching, not showing off. Teaching, taking you guys by the hand and showing you bit by bit on how to do this, step by step along the way. And with the power of Board Game Geek TV and all the wonderful people, the girls and gals that work there, we're going to give you a beautiful experience, and something that you can just resource and use as a resource throughout. And that's what Color Your World's going to be all about. So without further ado, folks, it's time to wait for next segment in 2 weeks, where we're going to really get started and take you on a wonderful journey. Until next time, for all the guys and gals at Board Game Geek TV, it's me, Rob Oren. Until next time, we'll see you soon for Color Your World.